So, the Nintendo Switch 2 is out now, and I got mine this morning. And instead of hopping on to Mario Kart World, which I am very excited about, I decided to test Animal Crossing New Horizons on the Switch 2. I've gotten a lot of requests for this in my comment sections. Now, of course, Nintendo didn't promise that we would see any improvements, aside from the recent update which did improve the crossplay between the original Switch and the Switch 2. Leave a like on the video if you wish that could have been a new content update though, that would have been amazing. Given the fact that was the only thing we were promised, we're not really expecting too much here, but I thought it would still be interesting to go through and see what you can expect. The requests I've gotten are to check out things like, are the loading times faster? As we know, New Horizons has some infamously long loading screens, and it can take you a long time to get into your island sometimes. And how about that island lag, where items pop in, or if you've got too many items on an island, it can start to feel really laggy and slow. Well, I thought I would check all of that out to see if it has improved with the general improvements that the Nintendo Switch 2 brings as a new console, rather than say an update. Now, the first thing I decided to test, which was requested a lot by you guys, was the loading times. When you first start up New Horizons, sometimes it can take such a long time just to get into the game. You have to see that island loading thing for so long. So on the left side of the screen, you can see the original Nintendo Switch and how long that takes to load. And on the right side of the screen, you can see the Nintendo Switch 2. And honestly, I will say I was pretty pleasantly surprised. The difference did seem to be fairly noticeable. As you'll see, I get into my Switch 2 island a lot quicker than I do on the original Nintendo Switch. Now, I do feel like there is still a decent amount of time to wait to get in regardless, but any sort of improvement here is a much welcome one, as the infamous loading screens have honestly been one of my least favorite parts about playing New Horizons, so anything to make them less is just really good in my opinion. This was definitely one of the things I was hoping for the most when trying out my Switch 2, so I'm very glad this seems to be the case. I also set it up exactly the same way, by the way, just to make sure that it wouldn't really be any different whatsoever. I pressed the A button as fast as I could, just so we could compare it as closely as possible, and I do think that worked pretty well. So yeah, if you are looking for New Horizons to load a little bit faster, then you should get that here, but of course don't expect it to just load up instantly. You will still have to wait at least a little bit. I will say New Horizons does look really good on the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know if that is just a placebo effect because it's a new console, but it does feel like it sits really nicely on this new console, and it makes me wonder what the next Animal Crossing game is going to look like, because I think it's going to look amazing. Before we continue on, I do want to have a quick word from today's sponsor, which is actually very relevant to this video. To celebrate the launch of the Switch 2, today's video is sponsored by dbrand. They've just released their new Kill Switch case for Nintendo Switch 2. This incredibly well-crafted case has ergonomic grips, detachable Joy-Cons, travel cover with an integrated game card holder, USB 4 dock adapter, and more. Not to mention it looks so good and will keep your console nice and safe. One of the most useful features is the dock adapter that preserves the OEM cooling, maintains 4K 60, and turns your dock into a display stand for the console. I love to travel with my Nintendo Switch, so keeping my new Switch 2 safe will be a massive priority, and that's where the travel cover comes in. Over 100 pounds of crush-proof protection whilst in transit. You've also got this beautiful game card holder which will keep all of your favorite games nice and organized. And as a nice little feature, it snaps into the semi-transparent travel cover, which just looks so good. Check out the link on screen or in the video description to get the new Kill Switch case today, and thanks to dbrand for sponsoring this video. So, the next thing I decided to test was island lag. How about those islands which are absolutely full of items and tend to load things in pretty slowly and can have a bit of lag? Well, whilst visiting this dream island known as Umbra, the dream code is 8297-5906-8199, I noticed that there was still a lot of load-in. Items were popping in at the exact same rate they were on the original Nintendo Switch, so it doesn't seem like that was something that was really to do with the console, more to do with New Horizons itself as a game, so it hasn't been fixed. In terms of actual island lag, personally I didn't really notice too much when exploring this particular island, despite it being absolutely crammed with items. However, I do feel like it's not really something that is going to be solved majorly, given the fact that load-in is such a problem still. Like I said, I think this is just one of those things that is more to do with the game of New Horizons itself, so unless they released a major patch update like they've done for some other games, I can't really see any of this sort of thing being optimized. So anything sort of similar in terms of island lag, or issues with items and clutter and such, that's not really going to improve on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, of course, another big one that was announced very recently is the compatibility between the original Nintendo Switch and the Switch 2 when it comes to online play. Now, Nintendo finally released a patch update for Animal Crossing New Horizons for the first time in nearly 3 years to improve this, which was definitely a big surprise. I really did not expect to see this whatsoever, and as far as I can tell, online play in Animal Crossing New Horizons does work well between both consoles. You shouldn't expect any major issues. It seems like that's something they foresaw that could happen, so they took the time to update the game, which is something I am very pleased about. New Horizons is also compatible with Nintendo Switch 2 features like game chat and such. In fact, New Horizons is one of the main games they advertised it with, which is pretty cool, so all of that should work nicely and smoothly. I believe it also works with Game Share, where a Switch 2 user can share their game to an original Nintendo Switch unit if you want to play locally. Also, a new feature which is really fantastic that I know Animal Crossing players will absolutely love is that when you take photos or videos on your Nintendo Switch, you now have the ability to upload them to your smart device directly. This is done through the Nintendo Switch Online app, where once you send your photo over to it, you can instantly download it from the app. You don't have to scan a QR code like you did on the original Nintendo Switch and go through all that hassle. You can simply send it to the Nintendo app and download it right away in its full quality, so you don't lose anything like you would, say, when you used to be able to post it to social media. I know this will be really useful for so many of you. I do believe you need a Nintendo Switch Online subscription to actually use this app, so that is something to keep in mind. But if you have one, then you should definitely find this feature very useful. Also, I personally found it to be so quick to take videos. It felt like it loaded really quickly on the Nintendo Switch 2, which was definitely a handy little thing. So yeah, those are all of the comparisons and new things that I've been able to find out so far. I'd love to hear if you've gotten a Nintendo Switch down below, and if there's anything else you want me to cover on the new console, please let me know in the comment section down below. I do have more content planned, so make sure to stay tuned for that. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to comment Bob's Gang so I know you did. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe and turn on notifications for more.